If I had $1 for every time a bridge plays a major role in the Naruto series, I would have $4, which isn't much, but it's weird that it happened 4 times, or is it really? You may have never really thought about this, but bridges are very important and prevalent motifs in the Naruto series. But even if you haven't pondered about this intriguing aspect of the Naruto series, your brain certainly noticed. Like every motif that is included in a story, the bridges play an important role in the Naruto series, and Kishimoto simply adores them, and he uses them a lot for a myriad of different reasons. The first and most obvious one is that bridges are simply important geographic aspects in any world they are present. Take a look at the real world, for instance. There have been countless extremely significant battles revolving around bridges over the course of history. Battles to determine the fate of nations and even mankind itself. Battles in which armies opposing each other try to take control over bridges, destroy bridges, because bridges are extremely important. They connect peoples and civilizations. They make society more viable because, let's just say that it's very difficult to cross a fast-running river carrying a load of supplies if you don't have a bridge. The same thing applies to an army. Over the course of history, bridges were extremely important during war times because they facilitated the progress of armies into enemy territories or even when they were retreating. So naturally, bridges are going to be very relevant for anything a society does. And in a story that has a lot of militaristic aspects like Naruto, bridges are going to be an important aspect of it. Not just for wars that are fought in the Naruto verse, but for an overall geopolitical aspect in the verse. The second reason why Kishimoto would choose to make important events in the Naruto story happen on bridges is simply because they make for an interesting battlefield, and you can just make very interesting compositions in panels and use the geography of bridges well during fights to make them more exciting and different from the norm. Bridges tend to be pretty tall structures that evoke a sense of danger. You can fall off the edge. You can also see very far away, depending on the height of the bridge. You can use the sides of the bridge because ninjas can walk on walls to fight against their opponents and attack from other angles. And let's just say that setting fights in different locations just makes them more interesting. One of the big problems in the arc that I don't really see many people talking about is that for about 100 chapters from when the Ten Tails is revived up until when Kaguya arrives in the story, they are essentially fighting in the same place, and it's a very boring battlefield because it's essentially a massive crater with some rocks. And yes, there are changes to the terrain with the massive divine tree that's summoned in the battlefield, with the Crimson Ray formations used by the Kage and also by Obito later on. And the terrain constantly changes because of the massive explosions happening every time that, the Ten Tails does anything, and other characters as well. But it's a very samey terrain. Now, this isn't a deal breaker for the arc. In the list of sins that are committed, this is definitely one of the mildest ones, but even still, it does feel a little bit stale when a lot of fights happen in the similar location time and time again, especially a location like that when there isn't a lot of room to play with. When it's just a massive crater, there are just rocks, and we kind of saw a fight like that when Naruto fought Pain in the crater that was the Leaf Village after that massive Shinra Tensei. And yes, Kishimoto does things to try and make things more exciting. For instance, when Naruto is fighting against Obito after he manages to beat the tail beasts, the rocks start to flow to make the battlefield a little more interesting and more variable, and to give Guy, Kakashi, and B more things to do with those rocks as well. But even still, it's not a lot of variety, it's just rocks everywhere. So including bridges is something that help you out, changing the terrain, making fights more interesting because they just happen in different locations. And yes, the arc example is kind of extreme because it does make sense why the battlefield is so destroyed. It's because the powers being used are so destructive, there's nothing really left. But when you use bridges, for instance, you can just play around with many possibilities during a particular fight. And I'm gonna be talking about how Kishimoto does that in every example of bridge used in the Naruto series later in the video. And the final and probably most important reason as to why Kishimoto loves bridges so much is that they have a lot of symbolic meaning. Bridges usually evoke powerful and good themes for the series. And when I say good, I don't mean well-written themes, I mean themes that are positive for the people involved. Because the symbology around bridges usually revolves around union, communication, companionship, and bonds. After all, bridges are connecting two points that were not previously connected. So the themes behind putting a bridge in the series and making it a very important aspect of a particular arc or a character is going to inform what's going on with that character. Also, what happens to the bridge during a particular arc is also going to give you an indication as to what's happening to the story, the plot, and the characters themselves, because it's going to inform you through its themes. So to illustrate these points, I'm going to be talking about the 4 major bridges of the Naruto series, comparing and contrasting their usage in the narrative and how Kishimoto used them to reinforce the themes, characters, plots, and world building of the series. And I'm going to be talking about them in release order. The first and perhaps most iconic bridge of the Naruto series is the Great Naruto Bridge. The bridge that was introduced in the first major arc of the story, the Land of Waves arc. And pretty much everything that every character does in this arc is because of this bridge, directly or indirectly. Needless to say, it's an important part of the story, and it's no coincidence that Kishimoto chose a bridge to be the surrounding point, the unifying thread for the first major Naruto arc. Team Kakashi gets a mission to protect a bridge builder of the Land of Waves, a very small tiny country that does not have a ninja army, and they cannot really defend themselves if a threat arises. They usually thought themselves protected by the ocean surrounding their tiny island nation. However, Gato, this mafia boss, took advantage of the country's weakness and is exploiting the population, running his mafia business with impunity, starving out the population and just pretty much ruining their lives. The construction of this new bridge is a threat to Gato's empire, because if it is concluded, trade and essentially much more prosperity will arrive to the Land of Waves. His mafia will no longer be needed to make things happen in the Land of Waves, and therefore he's no longer be as rich or prominent. And for those of you who don't know, this bridge actually connects the Land of Waves to the Land of Fire, the nation of the Leaf Village. It's a very massive, long, and also wide bridge that's certainly difficult to build even with modern technology, so I would imagine it was pretty difficult to do it in the Naruto-verse, unless they used some type of ninjutsu to help out. But we don't see any indication of that, and also there is no ninja academy in the Land of Waves. So we can see that the process of building this bridge was grueling and difficult because, well, just the entire construction is a tough process. But on top of that, Gato is interfering, and now he wants to kill Tazuna, the bridge builder, so that he doesn't threaten his empire by finishing the construction of the bridge. This already introduces a massive geopolitical element to the story. Bridges are important, especially for a small island nation that can't really trade because they don't have a lot of ships accessible to them, and they have to rely on this mafia guy to get food, essentially. By building a bridge and connecting themselves to a more powerful nation that can provide those things to them, obviously their standards of living will improve, but the criminal who ascended to power because of their necessity will lose. Therefore, he's trying to stop the bridge from being built. It's a very realistic type of scenario that you can see even happening in the real world. It doesn't even have to be with a bridge. It can be with anything else that's stopping people from developing, but because of that societal problem, criminals arise and they make people's lives a little bit better, but they also control everything and they have all the power and make things much worse in the long run. And so Gato hires powerful shinobi to fight against the shinobi Tazuna hires to protect him so that he can build a bridge. Zabuza and Haku are simply mercenaries, hired by a criminal to just do his bidding. And this is a perfect microcosm of the entire Naruto universe. People hiring ninjas, using them as tools for their means. Sometimes they have good intentions like Tazuna, but sometimes their intentions are nefarious like Gato's. Naturally, because the bridge is so important to this arc, the climax of the Land of Waves happens on the bridge. Team 7's final confrontation against Haku and Zabuza happens there, and to be honest, Kishimoto didn't really use the features of a bridge too much in the fight. They just kind of fight on top of the bridge, and that's pretty much it. Even though they learn to control their chakra and stand on walls and surfaces, meaning that Team 7 could have actually, walked around the bridge and could have done more stuff. Kishimoto made that fight a little bit more grounded than even the first fight against Zabuza, where we saw massive gargantuan water dragons and water shockwaves that were wiping out forests. This one was more tame. The most exotic jutsu that we saw was the House of Mirrors that Haku used, and that was pretty much it. But I'm not saying this is a bad thing. No, the important aspect of this climax was its emotional payoff, which was certainly done well. And I'm not even saying the fight was bad. No, the fight was really, really good. It's just that Kishimoto didn't really explore the features of a bridge battlefield to its maximum potential, which is fine. The most important aspect of the Great Naruto Bridge was its thematic value to the arc. Team 7 were fighting for the bridge's completion, while Haku and Zabuza were fighting for its destruction, essentially. While Naruto was clinging to his humanity, trying to evoke the best people have to offer, trying to connect them, Zabuza tossed aside his humanity and chose to see everything as a tool. Bonds had no meaning, they had no value. Human relationships were worthless. Shinobis were all tools, and therefore there can be no bridge there. There can be no connection. Haku was just someone that he was using for his own goals. While Naruto is actively trying to forge bonds, Zabuza just thinks they are useless. And this is exemplified by the bridge they're fighting on. While Naruto is fighting to make the bridge happen, Zabuza doesn't want that because that's his mission. He doesn't even care that Gato is a terrible person. He's just a ninja. At the end of the day, it's just another paycheck for him. But obviously, Naruto doesn't see things that way, and when Haku sacrifices himself to save Zabuza from Kakashi's Raikiri, Naruto gets outraged when Zabuza doesn't show any compassion for his fallen comrade. And he manages to convince Zabuza that bonds are worth something, that he cared for Haku all along, and that he was trying to hide those feelings in one of the most gut-wrenching and emotional scenes in the series, where the demon of the hidden mist cries. And it's in that moment, when Zabuza understands the meaning of his connection to Haku, that he switches sides and kills the man who was trying to kill the bridge builder. Gato is utterly annihilated by Zabuza, and now the bridge can be built. Zabuza dies next to Haku, loving the boy as his own son and having formed a connection with him, finally acknowledging his humanity and building that metaphorical bridge that's materialized in the completion of the Great Naruto Bridge. And Naruto, being the character he always is, he tries to see the best people have to offer. He tries to cling to their humanity. He seeks to form bonds, and this is what leads Naruto to his friendship with Sasuke, and a friendship that seemed almost lost many times in the series, but Naruto always believed Sasuke could be brought back. In a way, this bridge could only be built because of their connection. After Sasuke saves Naruto from that barrage of needles from Haku, Naruto goes ballistic, using the powers of the Nine Tails to defeat Haku. And that exchange with Haku, the words they traded, was what ultimately prompted Naruto to become pissed after seeing Zabuza's neglect of Haku and talk no jutsu the guy. So everything here comes down to the bonds characters share, and the bridge is the manifestation of them. It's a very good piece of symbolism in this arc, and it also can mean many other things as well. How Inari and the other people from the Land of Waves connected themselves with their inner fighting strength to raise arms against their longtime captors and drive away Gato and his thugs, and how cooperation and understanding will eventually lead to union and peace. Something that's even illustrated in the very last Naruto arc, when Naruto fights against Sasuke for the last time. It's because of Naruto's understanding that he manages to bring Sasuke back and save the world from the infinite Tsukiyomi. So if he had destroyed that bridge, or just chose to neglect that, things would have turned out much worse. You can see that in this very first arc, we already see what the Naruto story is going to be about, and the Great Naruto Bridge, which is aptly named after Naruto, the boy who inspired everyone to that connection, to that union, is a perfect metaphor and also a very good in-universe and mechanical way to deliver the story. The second important bridge in the Naruto story is probably the less well-known, and that's going to be Kannabi Bridge. This was the bridge that Team Minato was tasked to destroy during the Third Great Ninja War in the infamous Kakashi Gaiden flashbacks. Now, we barely even see the bridge in this arc. The fight itself does not happen on the bridge or anything like that, but the mission is about destroying the bridge, so naturally the bridge is important. We see Kishimoto using a lot of real-world logic here. Kannabi Bridge was extremely important for the Stone Village to transport supplies and move troops on the battlefield. The interesting thing here is that the bridge is located in the land of grass. It's not even in the land of fire or in the land of earth, which also plays into the themes that the major wars between the 5 great nations were fought in the lesser nations that are located in between them, transforming them in bloody battlefields, which is certainly shown later on with the Rain Village and Nagato. So essentially the mission here is to go to a foreign nation that's not even the nation you're fighting against and destroy a bridge that they have in their territory because it's going to help you win your war. Yes, it's very strategically valid because bridges are important, as I mentioned before, but it is sort of unethical, isn't it? We don't know exactly who the Grass Village was supporting during this war, but it's safe to assume they were probably just sitting back, like, watching everything unfold and being unable to do much to stop them. I mean, we are essentially the battlefield here because we neighbor both the land of earth and the land of fire, so the fights are gonna happen here, like it or not, and this is one of those unwanted consequences that are terrible in the shinobi system, things that wouldn't be rectified until the end of the 4th Great Ninja War. But regardless, when you see that the mission Team Minato is given is to destroy Kannabi Bridge, you can already get a feeling as to what this arc is going to be about. Bridges are about connections, bonds, and union. If you want to destroy a bridge, you're trying to destroy all those things. The 2 major characters of the arc are Obito and Kakashi, and obviously they weren't the best of friends in the beginning of the arc. Having completely different worldviews, Kakashi has that twisted, outdated mentality that every single rule has to be followed because of his father's tragic demise, and Obito is just the complete opposite. He's like, I want to help people. If I'm gonna be late, I was just helping a lady. But then they slowly start to understand each other when Minato tells Obito about Kakashi's dad's backstory, and when Obito decides not to abandon Rin instead of going through with a mission. That's when Kakashi makes his biggest choice up until that point. He chooses his friends over the mission itself, something that he would pass along to Team 7 in the bell test. And this is the first time where Kakashi and Obito form an actual bond of friendship. They start to understand each other and fight alongside each other, fight well alongside each other, put it that way, and they manage to beat back the stone ninjas that captured Rin. Unfortunately, a little rock fell on Obito, and that essentially destroyed that bridge that they just formed. The connection they built was suddenly and violently ruptured. And yes, Obito did survive that event, but Kakashi didn't know that, and the Obito who became after that event was not exactly the same person Obito used to be. He was actually the exact opposite of the very optimistic and easygoing Obito that formed that bridge with Kakashi. And the destruction of this bond is complemented with the end of Kakashi's mission in this arc. He manages to destroy Kannabi Bridge, which helps a lot in the Leaf Village's war effort against the stone. It's said that it was one of the most important fights in the entire war, and without the bridge being destroyed, the Leaf Village could have actually lost it. Now, we don't actually see the fight where the bridge itself is destroyed. We see it briefly just completely wrecked, but the point of the arc was the relationship between Kakashi and Obito and how that developed. The tragedy of Obito quote-unquote dying moments after he and Kakashi became friends, and the destruction of Kannabi Bridge shows that. Yes, it was a victory for Kakashi and the Leaf Village, but the cost was immense. Just like in every war in the Naruto-verse, children have to fight on the front lines, and Obito was one of those casualties. Little did they know that Obito didn't die, but what happened to him was far worse than death. The 3rd major bridge in the Naruto series is the Tenchi Bridge, in the Tenchi Bridge Arc. So yeah, if your arc gets the name of the bridge, it's safe to assume the bridge plays an important part in it. After Sasori is defeated by Sakura and Chiyo, he voluntarily gives out the information that he will meet with a spy he's infiltrated into Orochimaru's ranks, and they are going to meet at this Tenchi Bridge. So obviously Naruto, Sakura, and then Yamato and Sai go to that bridge because finding out as much information about Orochimaru as they can is important, because Orochimaru has Sasuke, and Naruto's main objective in life is to bring Sasuke back to the Leaf Village, getting him out of Orochimaru's clutches, because they know that if they don't do it soon, Orochimaru will take over Sasuke's body, and Sasuke dies in the process. Now, the Tenchi Bridge is very different from the bridge we saw in the Land of Waves arc. It's smaller, it seems way more fragile, doesn't seem solid at all. It's made out of wood, and it's a suspended bridge. Also, it spans over this huge chasm and not a body of water, which just makes the bridge feel way more dangerous to be standing on. And Kishimoto uses this fully into his advantage when they actually fight at the bridge. Now, first, Yamato is to contact the spy, which is actually Kabuto at the bridge itself, and what is one of the tensest scenes in the series, I would say. I don't like the ending of the Tenchi Bridge arc very much, but what actually involves the Tenchi Bridge is actually really good. When Kabuto's talking to Yamato, we don't know if Kabuto's actually a spy for Sasori. We're afraid Yamato's cover is gonna get blown, and then Orochimaru arrives. Things ensue in a very interesting way, leading to a confrontation between Kabuto and Orochimaru versus Team Kakashi. And everything on this bridge just seems way more dangerous because of the geographical location they're on. When the Nine Tails' chakra starts to come out of Naruto, you're just like, oh boy, he's gonna blow up the bridge, isn't he? The ground's already cracking and he's at his first tail. And you can feel a sense of danger. First, because obviously the Nine Tails is coming out, and that's danger in of itself, but also they are in a very high up, tenuous bridge that doesn't seem that's going to sustain them for very long if the Nine Tails decides to wreck it apart. And yes, the bridge is completely destroyed by an explosion of chakra from the Nine Tails. It blasts pretty much everything away. Sakura is rendered unconscious because Kabuto's body hit against her because of the shockwave of the Nine Tails. Then Sai flies out, and then Yamato tells him to go and grab Sakura, but he just doesn't, so Yamato has to do it himself. Hints at Sai's more nefarious goals in this particular arc. He wants to go after Sasuke and kill him, and he doesn't care about the rest. And while this is happening, Naruto chases after Orochimaru. I mean, not even Naruto, that's the Nine Tails doing everything. And they have a pretty spectacular fight. Now, the symbolism behind the Tenchi Bridge itself is very interesting because Tenchi means heaven and earth. It literally translates to heaven and earth bridge. And the connection between heaven and earth is one of the most ancient and fundamental pieces of symbolism that bridges have had along history and literature. And in this case, heaven doesn't necessarily mean the realm of the gods and where you're gonna go in the afterlife to live happily ever after. No, it means something unattainable, something beyond this plane, something that can never be achieved. And a bridge would connect the normal beings of this realm to those things that cannot be achieved by regular means. Hence, the heaven and earth bridge. Now, what's Naruto after in this arc? He's after Sasuke. Sasuke is that unachievable goal that seems impossible for Naruto to get. He is with Orochimaru, one of the most powerful villains in the series that killed the third Hokage that seems impossible to defeat. But Naruto's gonna try anyway. They have a lead. They're gonna go after this spy, and this spy is going to see them in the Tenchi Bridge, in the connection between heaven and earth, to decide whether or not Naruto will be able to make that connection, to grasp Sasuke from that unachievable position. But Naruto cannot contain himself. He lets his emotions get the better of him, and the Nine Tails comes out and literally destroys the bridge, destroying the possibility of a connection with the heavens, with Sasuke. When the bridge was destroyed, that was essentially a spoiler saying, yeah, Naruto's not gonna get Sasuke back in this arc. I mean, you could kind of infer that because it was really early on in Naruto Shippuden, and if Sasuke was brought back in that stage, things would feel really anticlimactic. But it's the symbolism saying that because Naruto couldn't contain the Nine Tails in that point of the story, he wasn't even ready to bring Sasuke back. It's also very interesting to take a look closely at the geography of the fight between Orochimaru and the Four Tails, because they are the ones who actually advance to the other side of the bridge. Naruto in his Nine Tails form actually goes there. He crosses the bridge after destroying it, but he does cross it, implying that the fight against Orochimaru is a fight happening in the proverbial heaven. A fight, like it or not, for Sasuke's own destiny, because if Orochimaru perished in the fight against the Four Tails, he wouldn't really have much of an option here. Sure, there are ways for him to return, but it's very likely that Sasuke would no longer have Orochimaru, and they could actually go after Sasuke more properly now. And you can clearly see that Yamato and Sakura remain on the quote-unquote Earth side of the bridge. Yamato sends a clone to the other side, but they can't do much to help help in the fight. They're just observing. The heavens are not to be touched by mere mortals, and that's why Naruto is fighting with the powers of the Nine Tails against Orochimaru, this creature that's not even a person anymore. He's more snake than man. Kabuto even states in this fight, making this very clear, that this is no longer a fight between ninjas, it's a fight between monsters, and that's why the fight is being fought on the other side, in the heavens, in the unattainable plane. Sai is the only other character that fully goes to the other side during the battle itself, and he is the only character that, at the end of this arc, gets something that he wanted or he needed. He starts to understand people's emotions better and develop feelings of his own, creating bonds with Team 7 and choosing to bring Sasuke back instead of going through the mission to kill him. And that was something pretty much unattainable for Sai at that point of the story. He never thought he would be able to develop emotions after his upbringing in the root Anbu. So him being the other character who crosses the Tenchi Bridge, the Heaven and Earth Bridge, means that he is the only character who's gonna get something unattainable in the end of the arc. Naruto, Sakura, and Yamato are all going to fail. And to illustrate that, in the end of the fight between Orochimaru and the Nine Tails, Orochimaru shoves Naruto to the other side of the bridge using that extremely elongated form of the Kusanagi sword. Naruto crashes down on the quote-unquote Earth side of the Tenchi Bridge, and with that he loses the fight. Yamato has to use his powers to contain the chakra of the Nine Tails, and Naruto reverts back to his normal self, no longer the demonic chakra beast, who was the only thing capable of fighting in the quote-unquote heaven side. You can see very clearly that Naruto was never Naruto when he crossed the Tenchi Bridge. He was always the Nine Tails fighting against Orochimaru, meaning that Naruto himself, only with his powers alone, could never succeed in his current situation. He had to rely on the Nine Tails, but the power of the Nine Tails itself was what caused Naruto to destroy the bridge, to destroy the possibility of a connection to heaven, meaning that he would have to train harder. And this is clearly exemplified when Sasuke shows up and stomps Team Kakashi without any difficulty in the end of the Tenchi Bridge arc. The bridge being destroyed also symbolizes Sasuke's mindset towards Naruto's bond with him. He wishes to sever it as well. He thinks he even did so in the Valley of the End, and he almost goes through with killing Naruto in the end of the Tenchi Bridge arc here. The bridge being destroyed signifies that these two characters are in a very difficult situation, and even though Naruto does not give up on Sasuke, Sasuke believes that he destroyed their bond. And what Naruto did here, using the Nine Tails to get him more power, not fighting for himself, letting his emotions take control of him, were not helping his situation. Therefore, the bridge was destroyed. And the Tenchi Bridge is also located in the Land of Grass, just like Kannabi Bridge. So that's two bridges in the Land of Grass that the Leaf Village has destroyed. It is kind of weird though, like nobody ever passes through their path when they're fighting at the Tenchi Bridge's location. Know that? I guess it's to make the story a little easier to handle and not to include more side characters than necessary. But as I said before, bridges tend to be important pathways. People should be actually going through them, but anyways. You could probably infer that the Tenchi Bridge is a bridge in a more secluded location. After all, it doesn't look like a fully transportation bridge. It's not made out of concrete, it's wood, so definitely not made to hold supply lines or anything like that. Regardless, it delivers its metaphors and themes very well to the Tenchi Bridge arc. Now let's move on to the fourth major bridge in the Naruto series, the Samurai Bridge. Yeah, Samurai Bridge is kind of a, whatever name, but this bridge is a very important battlefield during the Five Kage Summit Arc. It actually holds the entire climax of that arc, with a big set-piece battle of the Five Kage Summit, which is Sasuke versus Danzo, as well as Team 7's first complete reunion after Naruto Part 1. And this bridge is also very different from the rest because this one looks extremely solid. It looks more like a fortress than a bridge, but it also serves as a bridge. It is located in the Land of Iron, the same land where the Five Kage Summit was held, the land of the samurai, hence the name Samurai Bridge. Not very creative, but anyways. And it does provide a very interesting battlefield for the Sasuke versus Danzo fight. Both fighters use the elevation of the bridge as well as the side of the bridge to fight on. Sasuke stands on top of those large columns and shoots Susanoo arrows at Danzo, while Danzo uses the side of the bridge to attack Sasuke after he summons Baku, his massive elephant. There's also the time when Sasuke was pushed off the bridge and he he had to summon his hawk for the first time in order to, you know, fly and not fall down. So they certainly used the terrain to their advantage, much more than in the fight in the Great Naruto Bridge, but I would say less than in the Tenchi Bridge. I mean, strategically, they used the bridge much more than the Tenchi Bridge, but the bridge itself plays a much bigger danger factor in the Tenchi Bridge Arc than in the Samurai Bridge, even though Sasuke was in trouble a couple of times because of the bridge's geography. And this bridge is also destroyed in the fight between Danzo and Sasuke. Well, not completely destroyed, but let's just say heavily damaged. When Danzo uses his final move and essentially turns into a dark orb of destruction that engulfs everything in its path, it carves this massive circular hole in the bridge. And there comes the interesting piece of symbolism here. Danzo versus Sasuke is the final battle of the arc. You could say it's the climax, but the actual ending of the arc is the most emotional significant between the main characters. I mean, obviously, it's when they meet again. The first one to find Sasuke is Sakura, who actually tries to go ahead and kill him, but cannot bring herself to do it. Instead, Sasuke is the one who aims a Chidori at her, and Kakashi stops him, saving Sakura's life. After that, Sakura and Kakashi plead with Sasuke, trying to reason with him, saying that they can make things better, that the village will welcome him back, that revenge will take him nowhere, and Sasuke doesn't listen to them. He laughs them off and says, well, bring my clan back, bring everybody back, and I'll gladly return, but they're dead, aren't they? And he laughs maniacally in the iconic Sasuke laugh scene. Every single great Uchiha has a maniacal laugh scene. It's pretty much an obligation. And after seeing Sasuke is too far gone, Kakashi says, I'll have to take care of this. I'll have to do it myself, because he saw Sakura couldn't do it, so it has to be him. Kakashi and Sasuke fight for a while, but unfortunately this fight is lackluster, both in the anime and in the manga. I wish it was a little bit better, because it just glossed over everything essentially. It doesn't even feel that emotional, to be honest. But regardless, Naruto eventually arrives and he saves Sakura. Sakura's saved again because she couldn't go through with killing Sasuke once more. And Naruto and Sasuke have a brief clash of Chidori and Rasengan. And in that clash, Naruto tells Sasuke to direct all of his hatred towards him. And when that Sasuke came for the Leaf Village, Naruto would be ready to be with his friend, even if they both had to die in the end. Naruto hadn't given up on Sasuke in that point. He never did, really. And that's the entire theming behind the Samurai Bridge. It's very heavily damaged. The relationship between Sasuke and Team 7 is hurt, but it's not completely destroyed. First, because Sakura couldn't go through with killing Sasuke. She couldn't bring herself to do it. And Naruto still believes Sasuke can be brought back, but obviously the relationship is not the same anymore. Sasuke has done horrific things. He captured a tail beast, as far as they knew at the point in the story. He attacked the Five Kage Summit, put a lot of people in danger. He literally killed the sitting Hokage a few minutes before they fought. And he also almost killed Karin, a former comrade that really valued Sasuke. So obviously things weren't the same. The relationship was not in a healthy spot, but there were still threads of hope that their bonds would prevail. Hence, the Samurai Bridge hadn't fallen. Also, it's important to say that the fight between Kakashi, Naruto, and Sasuke in that point was primarily done under the bridge, not on it, which symbolized this wouldn't be the final confrontation they would be having. That was not to be the fight to decide the destiny of their bonds, because it wasn't fought over the bridge itself, over the quote-unquote connection they had. This would have to wait until the final chapters of the series in the Valley of the End once more. Another interesting metaphor for the Samurai Bridge to be heavily damaged but not destroyed was Sasuke's own connection to the Leaf Village. He was fighting against the Hokage, the man who caused many deaths of his clan. The massacre itself was promoted by Danzo. And yes, Sasuke's goal was to destroy the village, but we see that in the War Arc, when Sasuke arrives at the Leaf Village for the first time after several years, in a village that was completely unprotected by its most powerful ninjas, they were all in the war, he could have easily destroyed the Leaf Village there, but he decided to seek more more information. He decided to get more informed about everything, and that's why he resurrected the four first Hokage, to get answers to his burning questions. What's a ninja? What's a village? He wasn't 100% sure in his goal of destroying Konoha. And yes, much of that was caused by Itachi prompting Sasuke's different decisions there in the fight against Kabuto that they shared, but naturally the seeds were still there. He still had a connection to the village itself, so much so that after Hashirama tells Sasuke his entire backstory and the story of the Leaf Village, Sasuke decides to protect the village Itachi gave his life to protect in the past. He quote-unquote forgives the village and understands that the problem itself is the system created by Hashirama, but that the people affected by that system were innocent. They were as much victims as Sasuke himself was. The man who lost his clan, his family, and everything to that system itself. Now, obviously, Sasuke's ideas of how to remake that system were really radical. He wanted to destroy everything that came before, kill the Five Kage, and become the only person in the world to bear all the hatred, so that the world would unify against him, but he still had a connection to his village after all, and a connection to Naruto and Team 7. And that's why Naruto eventually managed to use Talk no Jutsu on Sasuke and bring him back. So the Samurai Bridge was damaged, but not completely destroyed. And that exemplified Sasuke's character towards the world, towards Naruto and his friends. Subscribe if you haven't already, this really helps me out, and like the video too. Let's beat the YouTube algorithm together. Watch this other video right here for more cool Naruto content just like this, and thank you so much for watching.